All right, welcome everyone to the repeatable database creation demo. Well, the first thing that I have in the agenda is that we are using an alternative Zoom link while Jarvis out so that we can record this. I'll see how to do the upload to YouTube thing later. So for today's demo, we wanted to demo the work that was done by Ahmad for the virtual private network configuration. And this is an important change because when we are going to create a database shards in the staging project or in the production project, we have to connect to existing VPCs so that they are able to communicate with other hosts on that project, and we have to make sure that connectivity works and that we don't disrupt the existing configurations in those GCP projects. So what I did is prepare this draft merge request that we're not going to merge, and in the changes that Ahmad created, there's this in the shards libsonet file, there's this existing VPC name. If you leave this blank, then the DB provisioning project will create a VPC and will create firewall rules and all that stuff. And I think this project, I applied it in beta. Whoops, shouldn't have closed that. But I haven't applied it in Gamma. So for example, this is how it looks on a project where the VPC is created by DB provisioning. It creates a VPC using the name of the environment, and that's where all the hosts will be, apart from the default network created by VPC. So I was gonna apply this using CI, but we discussed with Ahmad that it doesn't work if you have an environment and then change the VPC, because this is a very fundamental change. So we will have to scrap the environment and create it from scratch, which is not a project because this is not a problem for real world usage, because this is what we plan to do. But it was going to be a little bit tedious for the demo. So I went ahead and applied this on the beta testing environment. So this is the Gamma. So the beta testing environment now doesn't have the VPC created by DB provisioning. Instead, you have to create a VPC on your own. And in the case of the staging and production environments, for example, this corresponds to already existing VPCs. So I think I have the staging one here. So for staging, for example, we will target this VPC, which is where all the existing components are. And we will just target a subnetwork that is not in use currently. So on the beta, where we applied this draft change of using an existing VPC of name demo, now the components of that database are on that subnetwork. So one thing I noticed, and I mentioned firewall rules while doing this. If you look at the firewall rules for a project that we create the VPC, there's a default allow internal rule that allows each host to communicate. And when I was testing this change, the host couldn't talk within themselves, and that's because we don't create a firewall rule because we're not creating the VPC. So I had to create a manual firewall rule myself with the subnetwork IP range so that communication worked. I was going to ask you, Ahmad, if this is intended, if we are hooking up to an existing VPC, if we expect all the VPC rules to have been managed by someone else.
Yes, correct. So basically, the expectation of this implementation is that we are hooking to a VPC that has been created by our VPC module that's hosted under our Terraform modules group. So this module, the VPC module, just creates this firewall rule, so allow internal demo. So if you would have created demo using the VPC Terraform module, it would have created this this firewall out of the box. but I guess you create demo manually, so that's where confusion may arise. But yeah, we expect that this particular rule is created. If we are creating the this one you're highlighting.
Right.
So if we are creating the VPC ourselves, like in the example of our sandboxes, it will be created using this module, and subsequently we will have the allow internal firewall rule.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and in the config management repository, yeah, we use that VPC model, which is the same that we use in DB provisioning, right?
Correct.
Okay. So here in the charts, you specify an internal subnet, right? So for example, and this is different from the DBs, from the config management way we do things, which is that in config management, we have a subnetwork per type of component, right? So there's a subnetwork for the Bastion, a subnetwork for Petroni. In DB provisioning, we have a single subnetwork for all the VMs that are going to be created, right?
Yeah, that's kind of downside to it. It's not really conforming to how we do things right now in staging. So we supply a single subnet that's huge. It's /16, so we have a lot of room to create a lot of nodes. But all of them will be in this subnet. So the Bastion, the console servers, Postgres, and BG bouncers,
right.
And all the different charts. So all the different. So if we have like CI chart and main chart, all of them will be residing inside this single subnet.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess that shouldn't bring any practical problems. It's different than what we do, but it should work. I'll be starting to test this on the DB benchmarking. Here are some changes that I haven't committed to the DB benchmarking environment, see how it works on an existing environment. But one of the things I was wondering is, okay, so you put an internal subnet. So for example, here we said 10.176.0.0 16. Should we put that in this variable on config management, even if it's not going to be used for anything, just so that people don't grab that subnetwork when they create something in this project?
Well, it's not really set in stone. I guess when Jarv chose this particular subnet, he chose it with deploying the whole DB provisioning stuff in a separate project and using peering to connect staging and the new project. So, however, we're going to deploy this. I guess we're not really going the route of using a dedicated project for DB. So, we can just use a new block of subnets and change it in the shards JSON file and just reserve it in the variables file on the other side.
Right. So these internal subnet, these values are not going to stand. We have to find something else because we're going to use a single project.
I believe so, but maybe when Jarv returns, maybe he can disagree.
Right.
But yeah, these ones are a new project name. So
yeah, right. So we will do this and saying, okay, yeah. I wonder. I mean, so in that case, maybe it will make sense what I say of just adding it to this list of subnetworks, just so that the value that we choose here is not used for something else on config management, which is, I guess, it's not ideal because it's not really a way to enforce that, but what is
it's just like documenting that this subnet is it's kind of used. I guess the way we do it is just we look at this huge list of subnets and see the next one that's unused. So having it in this list is beneficial. So just avoid any conflicts with existing clusters and so on.
Okay, yeah, I just had that question, but it makes sense. So I think that's what it's not. I know it wasn't really a demo because we didn't run anything, but just looking at the results of what we did. Any questions or comments on that? All right. I had a small question that is not really related to demo, but wanted to take the chance to ask it. So for the current way we're doing things is that we are creating the CI shard just as a standby cluster of the main shard so that it has the same data and the sharding team can test access to different databases. And I wanted to ask Ahmad if you knew if we can do that standby cluster configuration using DB provisioning, or do we have to can we configure patroni.yml currently, or is that something that we have to implement?
Well, I'm not really sure how the structure you're referring to is working. Like, are you saying that we have an existing working Patroni cluster and then a separate cluster is replicating from it as the standby leader and so on?
Right, which is what we're doing in the CI shard that we created using Chef and Terraform.
Yeah, well, if all we're doing is just specifying Patroni configurations, then we have access to do it in the project configuration. We can specify it, of course, as long as Omnibus Patroni allows. But I guess it covers this part. Like you can specify a standby cluster.
Right. Yeah, this is so. I was checking how we do it on Chef. We do it with the GitLab Patroni cookbook. So, and this goes to the DCS configuration. Yeah, I'll check how I can do this on, because probably when we deploy this on DB benchmarking on staging, we'll have to do it this way, even though this is not the way we're going to do it once the sharding project is finished, but just intermediate state. So I'll look at that and ask you if I get lost.
Cool, no problem.
Okay. Well, that's everything I had. So I think we can end the meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.